Luke.
Drake.
Well, we're back, both of us, on the Big Muddy Podcast. I'm Drake Dury. I got my co-host.
Luke Eisenhower.
And, we've been MIA, both of us, for a while. We skipped 1 week. Don't like doing that, but we just had some too much conflicting whatever. But, man, tell them a little about where you've been.
Yeah, so I've been working throughout the week. And then last weekend there's the 4th of July weekend, so I got a couple days off mixed with the holiday and the weekend days, and flew down to El Paso, Texas to visit my girlfriend and her family. Had a good time down there. Went to White Sands National Monument, went to the zoo and art museum, a bunch of different places to eat, and just had a nice old time.
Look at you go.
It was great.
What animal
awesome.
did you see along the road?
Oh, yeah. Her dad spotted it and just about gave everybody a heart attack because he slammed on the brakes so hard. But we saw an onyx gazelle, or Gemsbach, if you know him by that name. I also saw a dead javelina and a dead badger. And
the live badger, right? Wasn't the badger alive?
No,
it was. Okay,
this
gotcha.
all dead. The onyx was alive. Yeah, the other things were dead.
Huge,
massive. Yeah,
yeah. For
Those
any of
things
you,
are big.
yeah, for any of you guys who don't know, the onyx is is like an exotic species from I think like Africa.
Yeah,
Africa.
They introduced them in the desert and they took off, and now they're got to control them.
Yeah, you can. It's one of the many, like one of the 3 or 4 wild exotic tags that they offer in New Mexico. One of these days, hope to hunt one, but they're weird looking, man.
And they're because her dad saw it, and then I didn't really get to see it that good, and I looked him up, and I was like, whoa, I'm like, that thing's
a little aggressive,
a little weird,
yeah.
That ain't no deer.
No. It ain't no whitetail, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So cool. You didn't see no elk.
No elk.
When was the last time you went?
On spring break in March, and that's when we drove. So we went. White Sands is in New Mexico, but on spring break we drove back up through New Mexico, and there was one of the mountain ranges there that we saw elk.
Is that where you didn't see elk in White Sands?
No.
Oh, so on the way back.
No. Yeah, it was northern New Mexico.
Oh, gotcha. And that checks out because I don't know if you know what elevation you were, but just kind of Jonathan's a buddy of mine, grade school buddy of mine, and he just went out to Colorado. He went all over. He went from like Denver, Grand Junction, Ouray, or whatever, I don't know how to say it, Telluride, Gunnison, all those places. And he saw nothing.
Really?
But everything's high right
Higher.
now. Yeah, it's summer, so everything's going to be at like high alpine and everything, which makes sense because we always see critters and animals when we go out to ski. But that's in early March. And there's still a bunch of snow.
Right.
So everything's still going to be low elevation or lower elevation. So we see a bunch of stuff while driving I-70 and stuff. So there's that.
Yeah.
I have been a little bit everywhere, it seems like. I went to Michigan, and I got to meet up with a few buddies of mine. Danny DeBlau, give him a shout out. And then Logan and Cody Johnson. Logan and Cody do guide services up there for smallmouth on Lake St. Clair, and they do some other guide places up there. But they're really good guides.
That's
and
cool.
We went out and we did some fishing and we had some fun there. And then I stayed with my buddy Danny. There's a bow shop up there. I'm gonna give them a huge shout out right now. Moore's Archery. And I believe it's Shelby Township. Man, they just do me right up there. I went up there, and I bought a bow, which I still have yet to show you. But I went up there and bought the new Hoyt VTM 34. Slick,
Really?
Freaking slick. I mean, it's nice, not nice, nice. Like it's good. It's pretty awesome. And I got the new HHA Tetra Rise. So you know how I was shooting that 5-pin slider?
Yep.
And it, like I told you, it just like got all cluttered and stuff and whatever. This is a 2-pin. It's 1 pin on top that you slide down. You can slide down. And then wherever you slide that first pin, let's say you slide it to 35, there's a pin lower on that same like stick, so the pin's up here, and that's what you generally shoot with, but there's also a little dot right there at the bottom. And wherever you spin it, it might be, let's say you spin it 35 yards, that second pin might be at like 52. You know, it just calculates it. That's how
Yeah.
it does it. And I think that's going to allow me to have less clutter, but yet still have the option to kind of like either a gap shoot, or if I got to move and make a quick adjustment, I'll show it to you and make it a little bit easier. But I would imagine people listening might understand or know this site. Um, I'll make sure to put it in the description below. I'm going to go ahead and put that in my notes so I don't forget what
Yep.
time and all that sort of stuff. But I'll go ahead and put that in the description. We'll figure that out. But I went up there, did some fishing, did some carp fly fishing
Really?
in tiny little creeks. I'm talking like as wide as this little
Really?
living room. Yeah, like I'm talking like
Were you catching some?
in people's backyards, like 8 pound carp or
Oh
flying.
my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, and like we're catching them on like little fly rods and junk, and just I mean, and they
That'd
give
be
you
super cool.
they give you a fight of a
I
lifetime. It's
bet.
it's crazy. It's so much fun. So we were doing that. I like kind of messing around, not doing anything too crazy. It's kind of my like relaxing trip. So we went that route, and then I came back, and then after that I went to the Spring River in Arkansas to do some fly fishing for trout, and I was just working on the new technique I've been using was the Euro nymph, and just kind of messing around, getting ready for, I guess we can kind of big reveal, but
Yeah.
I'll be going to Montana in a few weeks doing a giant fly fishing film spanning 1,100 miles of road, and streams and just crazy. I'm going to be everywhere. Although I'm going to even be in Wyoming for a little bit. I'm going to hit all the main parks, just kind of see them because I've never seen them before, and then just try all these rivers in between and just check out the country. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be a really big film coming up here soon. And then on top of that, last podcast I showed you guys the camera I got. So everything's going to be done on that camera and the drones, and I'm just super excited. It's going to be fun. It's going to be so much fun. Me and my dad are going up there. Um, but yeah, so I'm practicing for that out there in Arkansas. We had a good trip. Floaters started to come in, so that kind of messed up the water and
Yeah.
whatnot. But other than that, we had a great time, and yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun. So then I'm back working, doing our normal whatever, buzzing around, and I guess we'll talk about the email I got. And we're
Yeah.
not going to give too much specifics on who sent it and all this, but I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
Um, so I get back, and it's like July 4th, and
You get back. I'm in the airport. I'm
Yeah.
in Nashville airport when you called me. Yeah.
Nashville. Okay, yeah. I get this email, and it says, the person, and then it says MT Hunt. So Montana Hunt. And I'm like, what is this? It's like I guess someone emailed me off Instagram, or like, I'm thinking like someone who followed me or something. So I open it up, and there's trail cam pictures of me and Luke. And then after that, there was a trail cam picture of a nice 6x6
Nice.
elk. A nice 6x6 elk. And then, quite possibly, the biggest bear.
That thing was chungus.
That thing was huge. I mean,
Black bear.
The biggest black bear. Yeah,
It looks like I sent it to one of my buddies. He's like, dude, there was a grizzly at the same
Yeah.
hole. And I was like, no, that's a black bear.
That's a black bear. I mean, this thing was, and it was old. You could tell by the snout. I mean, oh my gosh, that was a huge black bear. And what's crazier, well, there's a lot of crazy things about this, but that camera, like when I sent it to you, I knew you knew where that camera was.
Yeah.
But that camera was 12 miles deep.
12 miles back. Did you say there was a picture of us?
Yeah.
You opened with that.
Yeah. There was a picture
It's
of
a picture of us from the side, like walking through the field.
like this little
In
meadow
camo.
there.
Yeah, little meadow by these wallows.
Yeah, and you can watch all our videos.
Yeah.
And
You'll see it in the videos.
like that we were walking through these areas. I won't necessarily put up the trail camera. I might. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I'll figure out I'll talk to the guy who sent it. But the guy who sent it turns out to be a pretty big, important guy in certain areas,
Yeah.
of the hunting industry, which is interesting that out of all people, we stumbled upon his camera, you know. And then we were starting to think about it, like, how did this guy find me? Because he didn't follow me.
Right.
So we came to the conclusion that the only thing that he had to do, because just the way Instagram's algorithm works, you're not really finding all the time new people on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But he had to be going through YouTube and like just see me and you and go, holy smokes, that's the kid that's on my trail camera.
Yeah.
And then in my description, he had to email me, which is insane. Like that's just
Yeah.
crazy. That's just crazy that someone found my stuff, and I don't know. It gives me a lot of
There's a
encouragement.
trail cam on a tree 12 miles back in Montana.
12 miles.
And the two kids from Illinois get on that camera and then recognized by this guy. Like, that's
That
just
who,
wild.
yeah, who has got some ties with some
Yeah.
important people and stuff, and I find it cool. I think it's very kind of like inspiring and motivating to like be like, now he knows that we were putting in the work,
Yeah.
and we're going to talk about in this episode, you guys.
This is it.
This
This is what you've been waiting on.
This is the one. It's the Montana episode.
Oh boy.
The good, the bad, the ugly, the whole thing.
A lot of ugly.
A lot of ugly. And we had no clue what we were doing, and I should say we had no business being 12 miles back. I think the furthest we got was 14 from the road.
Yeah.
We had no business being there. None. No business. I mean, we could do it, but like really, we Illinois boys getting an elk, having that whole situation, and we'll kind of walk you through like what we were thinking.
Yeah.
At that point in time, but yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, we put in the work. There, you can't deny that we didn't put in work. But we didn't know what we were doing. We've learned a lot from this trip. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So
All right.
Montana, 2022. We're not gonna tell you locations or nothing, but we leave on September 7th or 8th.
8th.
I think it was the 8th.
18th.
8th through the 18th?
Yep.
Is that what the days were?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So you want to just start us off about
Yeah.
first things first.
Well, first things first, it's a Thursday morning at Southern Illinois University. So we go to class. We wake up and have breakfast and go to class.
You do.
I do.
I totally skip class.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
And come back, and I get it changed, and I had a tiny little backpack of like sweatpants for the truck, and then I had my like meat hauling backpack of gear.
Yeah.
And I throw those in my car, say my bitter goodbyes to everyone, and drive out to your house and get loaded up. That was the excitement of like planning that all
Months.
summer and working ahead in school, and like, just remembering like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to Montana. That's why I gotta get all this stuff done.
Yeah.
And then like I'm driving to your house to put my bag in the back of your truck, and we're gonna be gone for 10 days in the backcountry. It was like, oh, this is it.
We don't even we don't even know what we're really getting ourselves into, and
No, yeah,
and it was like April when I drew the tag, because they always put the tag out like mid-April, and I drew it, and I called Luke up first, and I was like, man, I got it. Let's it's time to do it. You want to go? And he was like, against his better judgment, said, yeah, I guess I'll go. And so we bought gear. We were planning all summer. I mean, there was days throughout the summer where we would call while we were at work, and we were just talking. We just we just talk like, hey, I bought this tent, or I bought this thing. What do you think about this meal food? Like all this.
Yeah.
We went in deep. Like we were all about it. So like you said, like starting off, we were excited. We were so excited. It was a different level of excitement on the way back, but
waning.
But we were excited to go, and so we're driving, and ahead of us we have a 24-hour drive.
Yeah.
So from where we're at, it's like 23 hours and 30 minutes or something to where we were going. So we're moving. Like we have a long drive ahead of us, and we get to like St. Louis, we're like doing good, like, oh, we're not even tired. Get to Omaha, we're killing it, we're doing good. Get to middle of South Dakota.
That's
where that's when it hit,
because at that point it's nighttime, and then at that point we step out of the truck at this gas station. When we left Illinois, it was 85, 86.
Yeah.
We step out in South Dakota, it's like 40.
Yeah. Well, that was later. That was when we get to that was when Rapid City, I believe, right? That's when
I
we
don't
got
remember which one. It
Yeah.
was that one gas station where we opened the door and we were like, oh,
That was Rapid City.
okay.
Rapid City.
Yeah.
It was snowing.
Yeah,
It was
that's
snowing.
right.
It was snowing. It was 85.
We went from shorts and a t-shirt to snow.
I'm still in shorts and a t-shirt and I'm cold.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like literally freezing and it's like okay, we stop in Rapid City.
Cough.
We switch seats. Luke drove most of the time. Like Luke is an actual trooper because
Yeah.
I was not any help. I'm for some reason I just got tired like easy, and he started off the drive because I was doing some homework. Next thing you know, he drove for like 12 hours, and then I'm like, all right, I'll cut like the night version. So I drove from like 1 to like 4:30. Then I was like, all right, because I just stayed up with him the whole time.
Yeah.
And then
you didn't get sleep.
yeah, I
at
didn't
the
sleep,
front
so
part.
which is dumb. I needed to sleep.
Well, it's hard to sleep in the truck. Too.
Yeah, and we were so excited.
Yeah.
So it was hard to get there. So
But yeah, he talked up this like, oh, he's gonna go demon time.
Demon time.
He'll carry the boats.
Yeah.
He's gonna be driving through the night. He said, you just get South Dakota. I'll get us the rest of the way. He said once that sun goes down, we'll be cruising. We'll be in Montana in the morning. It's like two and a half, 3 hours of him driving. He's like rubbing my leg in the backseat. He's like, hey, can you like take over driving?
I'm
getting
just
kind of
I'm out, dude. I'm like so tired, and I was like, okay, so that obviously didn't work. Now the demon time revived itself
It did.
on the way back.
majorly.
Dude, that was hilarious.
That was terrifying.
That was quite
I didn't
scary.
think I'd make it home.
Yeah, okay.
I was in that backseat praying. We'll get to there.
We'll get there. I mean, it might take us 2 podcasts, but we'll get there. But
I'm so excited for this one.
I know
This is gonna be fun.
This is so good. So we're driving. I mean, we're probably like 30 minutes over. We're on the drive.
We haven't even finished the epilogue.
Yeah. So he
Prologue.
drives.
Prologue. Sorry.
Whatever it's called. I don't read books. So, anyways, I fall asleep finally for like 3 hours, and sun's coming up in eastern Montana, and it's like not
Whoa.
like nice. Like
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird. It's like a deserty, rolling, like cliffy, like it's like a weird whole thing. Like it's definitely compared to where we live, mountainous. Like it's like crazy, but we weren't in the mountains, and so we're getting out there, and we're looking around, and we're like, dude, this is the lowland, and we're like, that all day of this was gonna tire us out now, let alone all day of where we're going, and we're like, man, it's beautiful. We're listening to like old Western songs, and it's like, man, I wonder how big these mountains are actually gonna be, dude. Yeah, so we keep going. And it was the way out. Was it the way out or the way back? It was the way out when we went through the reservation, correct?
Yes.
The way out.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that's the next that's the next morning. That's on our way to that's somewhere in Wyoming.
Yeah.
Or
Custer. It was near what's the monument for Custer?
Battle of Little Bighorn.
Yeah, it was near that monument.
It's somewhere in there, and we're on the Crow Reservation.
Dude.
And I'm not bashing any reservations or whatever. We're not getting there. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is I felt wildly out of place.
All I'm saying is that I've never seen a sign,
dude,
a painted sign when you pull into a gas station that says elect Little Light Medicine Tall for city
mayor.
council.
Or whatever
for
it was.
It was some city position.
Yeah, city position. It was electing Little Light Medicine Tall. That was the name.
And I was like, I don't belong here.
Yeah, and so it's like me and Luke pile out of the car.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing pink shorts.
Pink, like 6-inch gym shorts.
Yeah, it's like 5.5-inch seam pink gym shorts.
And you've got the long blonde mullet at this point.
And Luke pops out. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking about us, but it probably wasn't heterosexual. They were probably thinking like, oh, look at these two guys, doing their thing or something. So I'm like, you know what? I don't know how they take that, but I just need to get my gas and get out of
I just
here.
wanted some chocolate milk,
Yeah.
man.
So
I went
we
inside.
we walk inside, and the teller that like rings us up has a shirt on that has um Native American with war paint on, and it says resist in big
in
letters.
in blood. It's
Yeah,
painted
like
in blood
it's
on the
like
shirt.
painted in blood. And I'm like, I know just a little bit about history, but I'm pretty sure the resisting is us. Like he don't like us. And so I'm just sitting here like, Luke, we gotta get out
We
of here.
gotta get out
Like
of
get your
here.
chocolate milk and let's get in this truck. And we went to this place because this is the only gas station for like 40
Oh
miles.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's like
You pass the sign and be like, next gas 107 miles. And you're like, what?
yeah, it's like insane. Like next services, and you're just like,
Yeah.
you're like, what's going on? It's like we came up with a rule like 125 miles till E, we get gas. Like
Yeah.
it's like because you don't know what's gonna happen, and you don't want to be stuck out there. Like that's not a good place to be at
No.
all. So we we get through that. We get out of there. We're
Made it
like,
alive.
yeah, we're like, we're not rattled, but we're like, man, that's just like an interesting. I mean, it had a weird vibe to it, man. I was just kind of,
It's weird when you go from like you go into the hucks, and we've discussed that
yeah,
previously, but it's like you got ghetto, and then you like you wake up like we leave Illinois and we get gas in St. Louis, and it's like ghetto.
yeah,
And then the next morning you get gas and you're in the mountains, like you might be killed on an Indian reservation.
yeah.
It's like
And it doesn't like I'm not saying this in any bad way, shape, or form. It just
it was just
both,
amusing.
yeah, it
to
was
us.
amusing, and both like it wasn't as friendly as
Yeah.
what I would experience going to my local Casey's back home.
Yeah.
It just was off putting, and I guess it probably was totally fine.
Yeah.
Probably was totally fine, but just the way
I hope
we
we don't
were,
offend anybody. We're just trying to
yeah,
we're just telling our
we're
stories.
also living this up and just joking around.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get there. I mean, it was we it's such a culture shock. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a Native American like ever. Like I mean like ever. Like now that I think about it.
Yeah.
And they were all that, and so it was just interesting. It was new. I that whole thing. So we get past there, and we're driving. We make it to, what's that? Billings, which is a pretty town. We
Yeah.
keep going. We get to Bozeman, and it's like this time we're looking to our left.
Yeah. I remember that
Yeah.
exact stretch of road
Yeah.
clear as day.
Yeah, I mean it's like it was like an hour
Yeah.
before we even get into Bozeman. We're looking
Yeah.
to our left, and there's like mountains, and we thought that the ones back in Wyoming and like early eastern Montana, like those rolling things, we thought those were big. It was no joke. These things were mountains, like clouds were below the tops of the mountains.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't see the top because the clouds were covering it.
Yeah, like you would look up and you'd like trace your eyes from the bottom up the mountain. You would see a cloud, and then you would see the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Like past the cloud.
And me and
you're just
Luke-
like you're
Yeah,
what?
we're looking at each other like,
What?
what did we get ourselves into? Like we both
What
said
is
that.
this place?
Yeah, like I mean, like I've been skiing before and all that, went up a chairlift, but like there's an idea in my head when I go up a chairlift, I don't think about the size of the mountain. But when I know I have to climb a mountain, I think about the size of a mountain. And it was like, it hit me. I was
Yeah.
like, holy smokes, dude, what did we get ourselves into? Like, we have no business being here.
Yeah.
Everything's huge. And so we go through, and we're going to start getting a little bit more vague because I don't want to give out where we're going. But we drive around. We get to a spot, and we're going down this road to where we're going, and we're looking at these mountains, and we're just like, that's where we're going. I mean, there's like,
Yeah.
we're freaking out. Like that's crazy, and
And it's also the most beautiful country I've ever seen.
Oh,
Like, it was,
yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful.
yeah, and I can only imagine that if we went in like earlier,
Yeah.
all those valleys would be green because they were a little tan. I think it was dry that year,
It was, yeah.
dry last year during that time, because where we were, the river was down and we weren't allowed to fish. The river was low runs, so I think things were drying out. But I would imagine if that was all green, you can just imagine how beautiful that area would have been. I mean,
Yeah.
it was already awesome. So we go up the mountain, and and we park and whatnot, and basically our plan was just to like get in as far as we can because we get there at what time did we get there?
We
Like
stopped.
5 o'clock or something.
Well, we stopped at the river at 1.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
that's
remember
right.
what time we got up into the mountains
Yeah,
because we had lunch and we changed clothes and then we drove back up in there. So
yeah, probably like 3 or something like
yeah,
that. Yeah. So we get there, and our first night we go in for we have 8 days of food. We have everything on our packs, and we go in for 5 miles that night is what we ended up
4 or
doing.
5. Yeah.
Yeah, five. Like I think it was five.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because yeah,
yeah, because
yeah, it
that
was
one
5.
spot. So we go in there like 5 miles. And right now we're on the trail, and the farthest this trail goes like 14 miles back up in this big drainage and bowl and whatnot. So I think we camp right around like 7,000 68 for the
6,800. Yeah.
first night, which is low for what we were supposed to be doing, and we kind of learned that.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, we saw elk that first night.
Yeah. On the way in, 4 things happen that I'll note. One, we get out of the truck and we're loading up, and you break the plastic mouthpiece
Yeah.
on the brand new metal bugle tube.
Yeah, yeah, the Phelps
So
game call.
that was like, man, we didn't
Already?
even start, and that
Yeah.
thing just
Yeah.
broke on us. Which I'm glad, because it probably would have broke back in the mountain, and then you wouldn't have
Yeah.
broke back. Would have broke.
Yeah, yeah.
Whoa.
Well, just wait, just wait. Day 6, it gets a little crazy.
Not
No,
that crazy.
not that crazy, but yeah, no,
Jeez.
no, but
yeah, broke the bugle tube, and then do you remember the original route that you had planned? And then we discovered that you didn't really know how to read a topographic map.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember that. Getting up there, and I'm like, we're gonna go up this, and like showing him the map.
Yeah.
And we get like I think that's like 2.5 miles in.
Yeah, because there's like it's trees and then the mountain. So like you can see the mountain, but it's not like you can realize the base of it or how you get up there. It's just like, oh, like that's the mountain we're gonna go up once we get over there.
Yeah, and so we get there, and when we go in, and I'm looking like, first thing I will realize that if you're coming from out east, contour lines don't mean what they mean out here. Like the contour line for back home where I'm at now is like a 25-foot contour line, and it's like, okay, I get that, Those contour lines out there are 100-foot contour lines. So when they are tight, they mean that thing is a cliff, like it's straight up and down, and I didn't realize that. So I'm reading these contour lines, like thinking, oh, that's an easy, quick little jaunt, and we'll get there. And it's like a canyon, like it's like back home canyons that we have here,
Yeah.
like we have one called the Little Grand Canyon around here, and it's like that's what these things were. Only here, that's our biggest feature, and there it's just like a fold in the mountain.
Yeah.
And you're just like, holy smokes! Like so reading these contour lines was something that I did not do well at all in the planning, and this is where things start to already start to not unravel, but it's like.
Oh, well, it's like the original plan gone.
Yeah, the original plan's all gone because we know that we can't walk that. Like, it's impossible to walk. So I'm looking at all these other contour lines, and they're all the same. And I'm like, oh, so basically I was marking out cliffs.
Yeah.
Like, so that all changes.
So that all changes.
Yeah, that changes the plans drastically. Yeah. So then what else?
So we kept, on our way in still is when we spooked the first elk.
Yeah.
Or I don't even know if we spooked them originally. They may have just been coming.
I don't know
through.
But
because we were on this trail, and to the right is a mountain, and then to the left it decreased in elevation to a creek, and then another mountain on the other side of the creek, and it was like 150 yards. To the creek,
yeah, about that.
And we're just walking, and I just hear, and I look to the left. There's like 6 elk over there. I'm
yeah,
like, oh, take.
Yeah, and they're running and stuff, and so we like stop, bugle. And try to figure out that, oh, are they going to come in?
Right.
Like, how does this work?
Yeah,
Do we spook
we're just
them?
Like,
yeah, we've never seen
an hour in, and there's elk.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my gosh.
And that's another thing that really kind of messed up where I was at was we saw these elk at 6,800 feet. And in my mind, I was like, oh, maybe all the elk are in 6,800 feet of elevation now. Right. And in a lot of those places, they allow you and the ranchers to run cattle. So I was getting a lot of the sign and movement, I think, mixed up with cattle, like in that later, like day
Yeah.
3 when we went back in there with the cattle
Yeah.
tracks and stuff like that. And just the fact that they were low kind of messed me up, and I thought like, oh, maybe we should be hunting low. And this is where we ended up wasting a lot of
Yeah.
time, is because how we hunted. But yeah, so we call bugle, nothing, 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 and then we think possibly we were having a troubling time hearing these bugles. Like bugles sounded way different than what you see like on to me what you see on
Yeah.
Facebook or Instagram and all that. Like it doesn't like you know cut through as much as you thought it would. That
You were also basically deaf in one ear for like the duration of the trip.
yes, I will say that that was another problem that I was having. Like a big problem I was having is I went scuba diving in that July, late July, and I got water behind my ears because I have ear problems and I can't clear my ears, and water got behind my eardrums in both ears actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I couldn't hear in either ear well at all, like at all.
Wow.
And that's why throughout this trip you'll hear like he's like, "Did you hear this? Did you hear that?" And I'm like, "No, I can't hear nothing," and I couldn't, and that eventually actually played a role in the elk in the future that
Yeah.
and so that was something that was messing me up really bad. So you thought you heard one. I kind of thought I could hear a sound. It's kind of like turkey hunting, where like you kind of hear the start of it, but you don't know if it's an actual
Yeah.
gobble. You don't know if it's a woodpecker or not. It's like, but you heard the
Yeah.
and you don't know if it was a trailing off gobble or whatever. So we hear one of those, and probably was because there was 6 cows, and it's like rut. So I mean I'm sure that there was something with them, but it was probably a little raghorn or something small.
Yeah.
Um, and we weren't really prepared for that. So what was the fourth
The
thing?
fourth thing is when we crossed the creek and had dinner, and I put my jet boil down. It's like between my legs. And I'm like cooking food, and I think I had like that was the first peak meal, but I had some meat in there, and I was like, man, this smells good. And I looked to my right, and it probably was 40 to 50 pound rock that it had been settled into the dirt. So like half of the rock is buried underground. So there's like a divot in the ground, and something has pulled this rock up
Yes.
out of the ground and flipped it over. And I was like, oh,
Oh, it's a that
oh,
that's a bear.
oh, that's a bear. That's like a big bear. Like just flipped over that rock, and
Yeah.
I'm here like whipping up dinner in the wood,
Yeah,
like
and it's like I'm eating like tuna and like
because
stuff like that.
because I was always more concerned about bears than Drake was, and then like we get back in there, and I'm like looking around because I'm like in the woods and everything, and then it's like we went through some of that like there was thick on the sides so we couldn't see in, and I'm like looking and trying to, and then I'm like, there's probably no bears out here, and then I had just sat down, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna be fine, and then I look over and it's like there's rocks thrown everywhere.
everywhere.
The trees are all scratched, and I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah,
First night.
yeah. This is the first night, and yeah, for some reason I wasn't worried really at all about bears, but Luca had a healthy worry, which is good. One of us needed to have it, and we were kind of somewhat worried in a way because we were in a unit that was close enough to units that had bears in them. Like there is an occasional sighting of a grizzly, and in
You
this
say
unit,
they move through that unit to
yes,
get to other ones.
yeah, they moved through the unit. There's not a breeding population, they don't say in there,
That makes sense.
so it's not like infested with like some other units are, but there is an occasional. So we still had to keep an eye out, but and like hang food and stuff like that. So which was a whole process in itself, which that was interesting. But yeah, so there's sign everywhere. There's sign where there's elk running through
Yeah.
there. Another thing that kind of led me to believe that elk were lower, which isn't necessarily the whole case. I mean, I think there was some, but I think the majority were still higher, and especially the bigger ones. And then so we camp first night back there.
Yeah.
Next morning it's like 23 degrees.
Yeah.
Like it was chilly. We get up. One thing I know we could have done better is wake up earlier, like
Yeah.
in the mornings. Like get there for sunrise, and like if I was doing it again, I would be getting to spots where I could glass at sunrise.
Yeah.
instead of being in the bottomlands, because we were like
Bottom of the
low.
bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean, there was peaks around us up there where we were at like 10,000 was like the peaks. Like 10,200 was the peak, and tree line was right at 70 or not 76, 96 to 9,200 feet. That's where tree line was, and we were at 68. So we were in the bottom, and we weren't going to see anything up or down there. Like we couldn't glass. I mean, you could maybe see 100 yards or 150 yards, but you weren't going to like see across canyons or do anything
Yeah.
like that. And I think in the future I would get higher on those north-facing slopes, kind of like what we later did, or on the south-facing slopes or east-facing slopes, and look at the north-facing ones and east-facing ones, and just kind of glass that and let our glass do the walking for us instead of our legs, because that's
Yeah.
whether it would be harder physically to get to the spots where we would glass, but it would be easier on us the whole day if we just sat there and like kind of observed and then went on them, because that's
Right.
eventually kind of how it ended up going. So we camped there. It's cold. We're kind of figuring it out. We get up probably.
Figure out there's no these pine trees are real tall and straight, and they don't have any branches. So I
Yeah,
remember hanging our first bear bag. I was like, where did I throw this rope? Like
yeah,
we ended up finding one that was falling over and caught on another one, but that surprised me.
yeah. I know it was kind of harder to wrap the bear bag than what I even expected, and we'll look into that, I'm sure,
Yeah.
and kind of figure that out. And I mean, obviously, if you're not in grizzly country, you don't have to hang your food. I mean, you can. I mean, I'm sure some people do quite often, but like you don't have to, and not in grizzly country and stuff. But so day two, day two is where things like we, yeah, we start to like, okay, let's attack the day. And day two, we wake up at camp and we turn on the south facing slope. We look at that, which not is not the perfect area to go. The north facing slope would have been way better, and that's what all the research says and stuff like that, because elk are trying to cool themselves in that time, and the way the hemisphere tilts and all that sort of stuff. That north facing slope is going to be the best. But we we decided to go south facing, and I mean this sucker was steep. I don't really know the exact degrees, but I think it was like 33 to 35 degree slope, and it doesn't sound that bad, but I mean that was I can't imagine some other steepness of slopes. Like I
It
mean,
had to have to get steeper in some
in
parts
some
too.
parts, like probably obviously I'm looking at like Cal Topo and looking at Onyx and stuff like that, and it's like the majority of it's like 35, but then there was some like tiny little areas that are just dots on the map that are like probably 50-yard dots, and those are the dots that we remember. It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, how steep it was. I mean, like if we fell, we would never have stopped down to the end of that mountain, or until we
Yeah.
hit a tree or did something. I mean, it was hands and knees the whole time, steep, and we I mean, especially the higher we got. At
Yeah.
first, at first we kind of like,
Yeah. There was a lead up to it, and then
yeah,
it got
and
steep.
then it got steep, and but as we were going, I mean, there was elk trails
Yeah.
and there was sign, there was rubs and all that, but I'm thinking that what that was is the winter time, like when they switch over to those south facing slopes and start to come down. I'm thinking that's kind of where they were staging, because where we got was like 7,000, you know, 7,500, and eventually we got to like 84. And I think remember about 84, there was just nothing. It was barren.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that like that 7 or that 68 to 7, 9 was like their winter range up there. That's where they hung out and they fed around and they rubbed and did all that in the
That
wintertime.
makes sense.
And we just were in there thinking we were in sign, and we just weren't. We were calling, we weren't hearing nothing. It was steep. We were exhausted, probably making too much noise too. I mean, there's a whole list of things, and so we walk quite a bit, and it gets to late in the day, like 5, and at this point we've walked probably about 3 miles and done 2,500 feet of elevation, 2,600 feet of elevation, and we are tired. I mean, the day before we were in Illinois, and we were at 393 feet. Where we're sitting now is 393 feet above sea level, and where we were there was 8,400 or something.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. I mean, that's just a bunch of these places stacked on top of each other. And so we kind of make the executive decision to drop down, kind of get out of there, go to the truck and rethink things because my initial plan failed, like we were talking about. Um, and just kind of take us from there, like as we're kind of dropping and what we see on the way out.
Yeah. So we got up on that mountain, and like you said, all signs ceased, and we were planning, like, we were still at that point, like, gonna pull it out and try to go to one of these alpine lakes and camp, and then we get to like the edge, and we realized we just can't do it. That you can't get over there.
Yeah,
It's a cliff.
we get over,
Yeah.
and it's, I mean, I like
That's I mean
steeper than what we came up.
yeah.
And it didn't look like that on the map. I showed you on the contour lines.
On the contour lines, it looked like, oh yeah, that's what we've been.
Hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah, no,
No.
it was it's a cliff.
Yeah,
It's a cliff.
yeah, and I just
If you watch Mission Impossible, when the helicopter crash, he like slides off that. Yeah, that's what it was.
yeah, it was just a cliff.
Yeah.
I mean, and I was so surprised. I was like, this is weird because what we were trying to do is the plan was to hike up the south-facing slope, cut around to the north side of it, like, and then cut up that way and hit all these north-facing sides and hunt that because that stuff looked really good. But then this cliff cut us off, and we were like, okay, so we can't go where we wanted to go. And at this time, Luke's running out of water too because Luke drinks more water than any other human on the freaking planet. Like he needs if you go up in elevation, he needs 9 liters, and so he's like, I mean, there's points in this story where he's drinking some of my water, my bags of water, because I'm like a camel, I guess, and I'll drink
apparently
2.5 liters of water in the day, and Luke's like parched and he's like on his last little drop, and I'm like, here's a bag of water.
Please, sir,
yeah,
can you spare some water?
yeah, dude, he's just. Yeah. Anyway, so he's like, I'm a camel, and he's just like got to have water. So we decide that we're gonna drop down, and we drop down 72. And remember, we call.
Yep.
Nothing. And I take a few steps, and I just hear
Boom.
like a horse going through, and we just see this elk zip off the mountain,
That
down in this
caught
ravine.
me so off guard.
I mean, we're looking at it, and we're like, how did we miss it? It's 30 yards away.
Yeah, that thing was close. Yeah,
It was in shooting distance, and they're huge. At that point, we got to see him, and we're like, how does an elk disappear? In front of you, in front of your eyes, not there. I mean, he was huge when he ran off, and I'm like, and I don't know if it was a cow or if it was a little spike. I don't remember now, but I think it was a cow.
Yeah, I didn't see any animals.
Yeah, I think it was a cow, and but at that point in time, I was already tired. I mean, I would have thought about it, and then that's 72. So it's kind of reaffirming that there's elk at this elevation band
because we thought they'd be higher, and we saw them lower the first day. We go up high, and all signs cease.
Yes,
because it's south-facing slope, and then we see one again at 72. So we're like, man.
Yeah, it's lower elevations where to go. So we make the executive decision that we're going back to the truck. Yeah, we're going back to the truck.
Canyon from hell.
It was bad. So
the only way to get off the mountain without going back the way we came, which was, I don't think we could have gone down.
No.
I mean, you can come up, but you can't go down that way.
It's one of those things, yeah.
The only other way was to basically follow this creek canyon out. But, I mean, do you want to...
Yeah, I mean, well, and I should say that in order for us to do this, we had to have motivation. And our motivation was we had set our minds to the Wendy's Baconator. Already by day 2, we're like, we need food. These freezer-dried meals ain't cutting it out. So we're like, Wendy's Baconator, we get a game plan. So we drop down into this basin, and it's like toothpicks. It's like someone threw a bunch of toothpicks down, and that's how many blowdowns it was, just everywhere. And it was like a mile of that, just over blowdowns, under blowdowns.
It felt like eternity.
It was so long, and it was so steep that the only part that wasn't steep was the
Was
river.
the actual water.
Yeah, it was the water. So it's like you're already walking, side hilling, and going over all these logs to get down. So then we get down. I mean, we're kind of jumping ahead, but just the amount of grueling, like just side hilling, feet getting wet, doing this, and like total for this day, we do like 5,200 feet, something like that, of total elevation, and we do it in 5.5 miles. So it's like every
Wild.
yeah every 1,000 feet of elevation we're doing a mile. So it's like steep, and so we get down out of this thing, and I mean we're just like excited. We hit the trail, and the trail we still have like 2 miles back to the truck. Where from
I
where
don't
we
even remember them.
Yeah, like it was like 2 miles or 1.5 miles still from the truck when we got out of this little like canyon and stuff. So we hit the trail and we bomb off and finally get to the truck late.
Like,
Like it's dark, getting dark. It's like 7 somewhere in there going down. And so we drive into an area and we get our Wendy's and we are
You're so
happy.
funny.
It was so happy,
So
you know.
happy.
And
It's awesome.
we come up with a game plan to try a different spot for day 3 because
Yep.
we were like, that's just too steep. Like we can't do that.
There wasn't much we could get done in that area.
Not in that area. Well, unless we hoofed it back, which eventually,
Yeah, unless we
yeah,
kept going.
which is it's something we learned. But so day 3, we decide to kind of focus in that 79 to like 9 or 69, like 1,000, like feet area. So we're sitting in there and we go in the next day, and I think we do about 7.5 miles that next day because we went in about 4 or 3.25 or 4. It was something like that. Maybe it was 8 because I think we went in like 4 miles that day. So we cut in and we're going up this mountain. And what we kind of figured out is the unit that I picked had deep drainages. So, and it was in wilderness areas, so you couldn't like drive up in it. So these deep drainages, like the drainages went into like 14 miles. But all along it was like canyoned out like mountains and ravines and stuff. And those ravines had creeks in the bottom of it, but each one of them went far. Like it was deep in there to get
Yeah.
to that spot. And those basins up there were eventually where we realized that's where the game was. And they just kind of come out at that elevation band and then work their way down as winter comes down. And that's kind of what we were figuring out. But we didn't learn this until like day 6.
Right.
So we go up, and once again, sign, all at like 73, like 69 to 7,300 feet. Get up, no sign. And this is the day that we were walking,
Yeah.
and you look down,
Yeah.
and yeah,
We've made it. We've kind of ceased climbing, so we're just walking flat through the woods at this point, which is kind of nice.
kind of flat.
Kind of flat.
Yeah.
But compared to our
We're still
climb.
going up.
Remember that initial climb?
Yeah, the initial climb was tough.
It was tough. We're still going up, but it's like we're just chilling. All right, we're walking. We're going through some pine trees. And Drake's in front of me. And I look down, and there's a little white thing on the ground. I'm like, well, that's weird because we're miles back in the woods.
Yeah.
And I said, Drake, pick that up because he's in front of me. And he picks it up. And I look down at the bear spray on my hip belt, and I realized what he has just retrieved from the dirt is the safety tab
From the
of
bear
someone else's bear spray. So someone has popped the safety tab off their bear spray. It's fallen in the dirt, and they've used it, been eaten. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't
But
know.
It was a pretty.
Yeah, so we're just laughing at this point because we're like,
We're just like,
haha, someone used their bear spray. It's
Ooh.
like, yeah. So that's like adding to the suspense. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And so we get up there and we're tired. Like
Yeah.
we get tired midday, and we go and we get next to this creek, and
Oh.
and you like take a bath in this
Dude,
thing.
that
like,
creek was. I stepped in that creek. Both my feet went numb.
Yeah, it was freezing.
Freezing.
Literally cold, like just ice cold. And
But yeah, I washed my hair and my
yeah,
face. And
you did
everything.
all that because it was day 3 without a shower, and And I washed my hands, washed my feet, did some of that, and then we basically just took a nap. We took an hour and a half nap because like I said, we were tired, and I mean, I'm kind of ashamed to say it that's how we were.
That we went to Wendy's and we took a
Yeah,
nap.
like
And
but it's also like this was our first
we're not
time.
proving anything.
Yeah, yeah, we weren't, and it's our first time. I hadn't even seen an elk before that first day. Like I hadn't even seen one, and that was at 150 yards, and then the other one was at 30 behind some brush. But like I didn't even know what they looked like. I haven't hiked in the mountains before. This is my very first time like ever being there, and so we're just figuring it out. And like I threw my ruck on a few times and rucked back home, but nothing does anything of the sort justice. I mean, I did a 3 mile hike the other day, probably 1,000 feet total elevation over 3 miles. Nothing crazy. Whipped it out, easy. But out there, 3 miles is totally different. It's not even the same ballpark.
That's
Like,
the first time I in my life have talked in yards like it was a goal. You'd be like, all right,
yeah,
300 yards and we'll make it here, or 700 yards, and then that was like, all right, for the next hour, it's like we're working on this 700 yards.
yeah,
And I was like, wow.
yeah. We weren't moving at a speed like I think when I looked at my Onyx tracker, just depending on like the elevation, but we were looking at like 2 miles an hour, which is good. But in some places, like that steep spot on day two, we were doing like a half a mile an hour. Like it was like slow because of just how steep it
Yeah.
was. And and there's things we learned and ways we learned to hike and how we hike that was going to change that in the future. But like it was just we were just throwing our hat in the game and just kind of figuring it out. And it was difficult. So day three, we get up, we get like 4 miles, we take our nap, nothing's
No
bugling,
sign.
no sign, no nothing's bugling. So we're like, okay, go back to the truck. It's time to go back to the truck. So we walk all the way back out to the truck, get in the truck, we try a different spot. That what that did was like it cut off like 2 miles of what we did because we walked. Remember that first trail, and it was like 2 miles to where or like pretty close, and then
Oh, I see what
another
you're saying.
yeah another 4 miles up into it, or not 4 miles, another like 2.5 miles
Yeah.
up into it. So this trail or this motorized road,
Air quotes if you
yeah,
can't,
yeah,
if you're listening.
took like cut like 2 miles off this. Man, I remember getting on this road, and I'm telling you, like an ATV would have had troubles getting onto it.
Dude.
And it was like there's still pinstripes in my truck.
I mean,
I mean, everywhere. It looks like someone took steel wool and just rubbed my truck down. And we went down this road again, air quotes, road, bumpy, just jerking everything. And it's so tight that I mean, I'm hearing like for 45 minutes it takes us to go like literally 2 miles. It takes us like 45 minutes, and all I'm hearing the whole time is yeah, just screeching on my truck. And it's like to the point where like I can't turn around. That's how skinny this road is. Like there is no 47-point turn that would allow like literally the truck.
If you turn the truck horizontal, it doesn't fit on the road.
Yeah, it doesn't fit on the road, and there's trees on both sides. Like you can't turn around until we got to the 2 miles where there was like a little loop where other people have camped before in the past. I'm sure with like their UTVs and stuff like that, because that's what that road was made for.
Yeah.
Was UTVs, and that would have had no problem. We would have got there in 10 minutes down there. But I mean, we were taking it slow. Things were jerking. We get back there and we cut off that time. We call all like the evening trying to get things to spark up, and nothing. And I mean, we're in a beautiful area.
Yeah.
Like on this top, it's flat. We have the truck. We go to sleep in the truck. And the night of day two, we slept in the truck. And then this day, we decided to sleep in the truck again on the night of day three.
Because we were going to call in the morning at that same spot and see about going into that same place.
Yeah.
From the like cutoff.
Yeah, from where we were, because we were trying to get there. We were going to get there early in the morning, call, and hopefully something early in the morning would just kind of answer back in that early morning exchange. And so make our food, do our stuff, sleep in the truck. And at this point, I should note that we're our hopes are not as high as what they were because we were like, we were thinking we were gonna get in there, get on some elk, and stay with the elk at least, and see some stuff and kind of get in it. But like of course, we saw some stuff, but it wasn't in the same. It wasn't in the context of what we wanted to see them. And so our hopes are kind of like a little down, up. We're kind of just okay. We're living. So we sleep in the truck. And we call in the morning, nothing. So that day, that's day 4, we went into town. We said I need to go into town, look at the contour lines, figure that out, and map. So we go into town to McDonald's, and I remember just annihilating like a McChicken,
It
like
was amazing.
two McChickens, fillet of fish, like 20 nuggets. Just I mean, absolutely just demolish. Just a food for family of 6 probably. I eat it and like I wolf it down. Like
Yeah.
it was easy. It wasn't I wasn't even full by the time I was done. So we eat that. We kind of hang out there for a few hours, and get some coffee. Kind of go to the gas station. Kind of figure some things out, clear our head, and and we look and I'm just like, hey, I think we just need to go back to where we started off and just go deeper. And we didn't really have any other plan. So we both agreed on it. We're like, we're just gonna hike this trail, which this whole trail was about 14
Well, I
miles.
remember that guy
Yeah, and
DMing you.
that guy DM'd me, and he was like, hey, where you at, and all this sort of stuff. And I kind of talked to him and told him, and he's like, hey, you're gonna want to go deep into those canyons. Like that's where the elk are, is up in there. And I'm like, okay, well we'll try that. So we get back there that evening. We walk in 5 miles to the exact same camping spot in which we camped the very first night. That's about where we stopped. So we camp there. We wake up. There's nothing new really with that spot. We camp there on the night of 4, and then 5 comes. And five's when things start to kind of unravel. And in a way, it it starts raining on day 5, and we are at the 5 mile mark, and we have decided to keep going. So day 5, we're moving through, and it's raining. And I should add that we had a podcast earlier about kind of the things we did wrong and what we need and stuff like that. We're gonna get into it more, but like for weight savings, the one thing or a few things we decided to shave off was rain pants and gaiters. I didn't even know about gaiters prior to
Yeah,
the
I didn't
thing.
know about gators.
I didn't know about gaiters, but rain pants.
Yeah.
And this was the fatal flaw of like everything that we ever did was these rain pants. I mean, it kept us from moving, it kept us from doing stuff. Because on day 5, it was raining at a rate that you were getting wet. Like you weren't going to. It wasn't like a downpour, but if you walked the whole day, you were wet at the end of the day. So we took off our packs and put on our rain jackets and put our packs back on and walked a bit. But I mean, that grass just touching your leg.
Yep.
I mean, our legs from the thighs down were just soaked, completely soaked. And there was a time where we got under my tent, and I was using the Nemo Hornet 2-person Elite. And we just got under the rainfly and kind of pitched it up and just sat there and just was like, what are we doing? And it's colder that day. It's like
Yeah.
50s, 40, like high 40s. And we're kind of like chilly and stuff, and just kind of because we're wet, just
Just
cold.
down.
Yeah, it was down. It was just a down day. I mean, you couldn't see 100 yards because of the fog. So even if we wanted to get somewhere in glass, I mean, it's foggy. We can't do it. So we make it back. And that day we walk probably another 5 miles or so. And we get back to this burned area. Remember that burn?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Which was really cool. And I almost guarantee that there was elk in that burn at some point in time if we would have sat up there in glass. But we weren't seeing anything. And the way the day was, nothing was going. So we're soaked. I mean, we're miserable. Our boots are wet. Everything's wet.
Everything's wet because those last few miles we just walked in the rain,
Yeah.
and that's when like my pack started. It's water resistant, but
Yeah.
like your pack starts getting wet. The cloth, your socks are soaked through. Your undershirt starts getting wet.
Yeah, and it's just damp and all of that sort of stuff. And so we're we're going, and we kind of get to the end of the day, and we kind of like, hey, we need to sit back and like get up camp. So we get to this one spot that just
Wet.
yeah, it's wet. Everything's wet. There's a little creek running through. There's water. You can tell horses have been there. Remember, because there was like a piece of trash we picked
Yeah.
up, and but you could tell that that's where the horses camped, and it's kind of like a nice little divot.
Yeah.
And so we like kind of our tents at the time were smaller in stature compared to the one I have now, which is the Seek Outside Cimarron. And so we were kind of like putting our tent under these pine trees because the only thing dry that we figured out was directly under these pine trees because they just kept the water out perfectly. So we get out there, and I think this is where episode 3 comes in, and throughout the whole, I think this is where episode 3 starts. Is this day is when Luke, it's the morning after day 5. Luke's coming out of his tent, and this is kind of where the fun somewhat starts to happen for a little bit. So, day 5, and again, nothing eventful. We haven't seen elk, we haven't heard elk since day 2, the end of day 2. And we're on day 5 now, and now day 6. So, he's coming out of the tent on day 6. Everything's soaked, everything's wet. We're pretty miserable in this sense. This is when you start to kind of get down more than I do. I start to get down on the end of day 6. You were down on kind of the beginning. You kind of were already there because it was hard. I mean, it wasn't a relaxing trip.
The evening of day 5, I was like, I kind of just want to be home.
Yeah, and it was.
I didn't have a Zolio either. I couldn't text nobody.
Yeah, he couldn't text. I had things to text and people to text. So I was, I had that device, which helped out quite a bit with my mental health. But Luke over here was just kind of vibing out in the backcountry, just kind of.
There was no vibing, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was completely difficult. Like I mean, and the thing that I think adds to it is we had no clue what we were getting ourselves into.
Yeah.
And I think like it's like the first day of work of starting a new job. It's like I remember the first time I worked at a butcher shop, and it was like, we had a 12-hour shift that day, but I didn't know, like, there wasn't a set time when you clock out, and that day seemed like the longest day of my entire life.
Yeah.
It's like uncertainty made it long, uncertainty made it horrible, and all of that sort of stuff. And there always is a level of uncertainty when hunting, but just never doing this trip, not having the gear specifically dialed down. I mean, we thought we had it, but like there was blatant flaws that came out throughout the whole trip. And just that's the stuff that made it so difficult. It wasn't the big battles as much as it was the little comfort, nice battles. Like the hiking itself doesn't really, day 2 was tough, but other than that, the hiking wasn't that.
Hiking wasn't bad. It was the mental game.
Yeah, it was the mental game of just not being connected, the rain, not seeing anything, and all of that. It was more mental than it was physical by a lot. And it was just like we never done it before, and we don't know what we're doing, but we went out there and did it anyways. So
I've never had a feeling before. Not to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
But I've never had a feeling of aloneness.
Yeah,
like you do out there. Because
yeah,
even if you go to the middle of the Shawnee here, you're out in the woods, but you're not alone.
yeah.
Like
you can still feel. You can.
You know, home's close.
Yeah, and you can hear the hum of a road. Still,
usually, yeah.
Yeah, usually you can.
Or if I hike this way, there'll be a road, and it feels familiar, right?
Yeah.
There's oaks, and there's leaves on the ground.
Yeah.
It just feels familiar. Out there, you go out there, and it's like when we were back in the mountains, it was like you're in the woods in the rain. It's like we're alone.
Yeah, and
in the mountains, in the rain.
Where we were, like where our truck was 45 minutes from cell reception. Our truck was 45
from
minutes.
Cell reception.
Yeah, our truck was. And we were an hour from a town.
From humans.
Yeah, like a town. Any sort of town we were an hour from.
And once you get out there, it's just the whole world fades away. Because it's like, I tried to think to myself about going back home, and I'm like, man, like, we have to I can't even fathom going back the way we came, how long it's going to take. And then, like, the drive home, 24 hours home, like, you're is
you're
just
so far
so
from
far.
what you know.
And you feel if you're wet and it's getting dark, but it's not dark yet, and you're
Yeah.
eating this freeze dried food, you just feel like crap.
Yeah, and I mean, there's obviously and obviously all of this was a learning experience. I mean, I think now me and Luke have talked about it, and now going back out there, we'd kill it out there. I think.
Yeah.
I think it would. I mean, it would have a totally different outlook,
Yep.
and it would be kind of just a blast and a great way to get away.
Yeah.
And it would be difficult, but it would have its difficulties. But just knowing, hitting or being efficient,
Yeah.
because that's what we weren't, is we were not efficient
No.
in those woods at all. I mean, we were floundering around, just kind of figuring stuff out as we went. And I mean, everyone who's new is going to have that.
Yeah.
If you think the learning curve's steep, well, it's because the learning curve's steep. It's not a joke. If you are going out with your college buddy from Illinois, you've never stepped foot out in Montana. I never went to Montana before that time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's steep. The learning curve's steep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're down because we thought we were going to have it easier, but I mean, that's just how it's always going to be.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're alone out there. And even though I was with you, it was like, wow, I mean, we would hear a jet like every now and then, but that was the closest thing we got to anything was a jet going over us. And it was just so strange.
It was strange.
It
That's
was
what
like
it was.
walking on
It
a mountain
was
or
strange.
walking on the moon. It was just like
Yeah.
it was so eerie all the
Because
time.
the woods is different out there.
Oh,
There's
so much.
There's no leaves. There's grass.
Yeah,
There's no squirrels.
none.
There's,
Well, I mean, there's like those pine things.
yeah,
those pine
but barely.
squirrels. Yeah,
I hardly saw any. Here, you walk through the woods. There's 14 gray squirrels hopping everywhere.
Yeah.
You can hear things. You hear raccoons. You
there's
hear
deer
squirrels,
everywhere.
There's deer everywhere. There's
It's just people and noises and
out there. It was just
city
like,
lights still. And yeah, everything was just like vacant. Like it was like you were in a
it was unsettling.
It was
In
unsettling.
the back of your mind, you just felt like this is unsettling. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel good.
And then the added on top of like just a little bit of like idea that there could be bears out there. It's like you're already in an eerie place, and there's like there's things out here that are big, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah, out here, if you're alone in the woods at night, again, it's like you're alone in the woods at night. Out there, if you're alone in the mountains at night, it's like you're in the mountains with something could kill you in the
Yeah.
middle of the night. You don't know. Like,
yeah, I mean it's not going to.
it's not
but,
going to.
but it's
there's
just like
if you're sitting there in the dark and you're making your food and your whole body's wet and you got to crawl in your little tent and then there's that little voice like, "Hey, what if a bear just comes in your tent and just eats your throat?"
yeah,
And
dude.
you're like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot
There's
that was
that.
a thing." Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, when I'm back home, it's like, or not back home, but like when I'm doing my turkey hunting trips and I'm around, the biggest thing I'm afraid of is like people. Like
Yeah.
people are just wild or whatever.
There's weird people.
And yeah, just weird people out there. But like I'll get out there and there's not like, I hear road noise, I hear, I see city lights or something. There's no level of fear. It's familiar.
Yeah.
But you get out there and I mean, it's just
So any woods I go to feels familiar. Even
Yeah.
if I've never been there around here.
Yeah. And it's just so quiet. It's a level of quiet and a level of peace out there that you just can't understand unless you've been there. And it's what draws me back now.
Yeah.
It really does.
And it was the feeling of when you deer hunt, it's like you're hunting deer. Like I'm gonna go out and shoot a deer. You hear it, I'm gonna go whack a deer.
yeah.
Because it's like just a little deer. It's either in this stand of woods or it's probably out in this field, and you just wait for it to walk by, or you can find it out there. It's like this massive elk, massive creature, and it could be anywhere in these mountains.
Yeah. The back 40 of like Eastern Woods, the back 40 is me looking at a little chunk of woods up on this hill. Like that's 40 acres right there.
Yeah.
That's what people hunt back here in food plots and do big.
Yeah.
There's 600 acres, you can have that. Out there, 600 acres is just kind of like the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
It's like huge.
And it's just like you're just yeah.
And it's like, how do I find something out there? I mean, it's overwhelming, and I think that should be like kind of drawed in on, or like like focused in on, is like if you're doing this, like prepare to be overwhelmed, because especially if you're coming from out east. If you live in the west, you kind of got
been there your whole life.
You got to feel it might feel more familiar, but most people are coming out from the east. Man, it's strange, and where we live in Southern Illinois, like it's flat, here. I mean, the road from my house to about 20 minutes to where I go to school. There's a 20-foot elevation change. Like
Wow.
that's what it is. So I mean, it's flat here, and out there you can't go 20 feet without having a 20-foot elevation change. I mean, it was steep. So, anyways, he's getting out of the tent. Day 3 starts. This is the episode 3. He's getting out of the tent. I'm like, Luke, how you doing? He's like, oh, I'm wet, you know. So we're just kind of doing that. And before we do that, into day 5 is when you heard me talking to myself in the tent. Remember?
It was the morning of day
6. So
8.
this day.
It's the morning of day 8.
Oh, it was the morning of day 8.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll get there then. But yeah, so I thought it was when it was raining.
It was. That's when we were in our tent for the whole morning.
Oh,
till
yeah,
like
yeah.
11.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I'm back. So anyways, we get up. Luke's
I'm gonna grab water. As mentioned earlier, I need a lot of water.
Yeah. So he's here. Here he is again. He also needs a lot of food. And I guess now we're back and all that, but
Yes, welcome.
we are. The food situation was another thing that added to this trip because I will say this, and I will say this proudly. Something that's good for one day does not mean it's good for 8 days. And I will tell you this right now, Cliff Bar, the Builder Bar, protein, whatever. Yeah, that bar, get away from me. I don't even want to be sponsored. Don't throw money at me. Like I don't want to be sponsored. I can't eat them again.
Dude.
I can't. Like I can eat the actual Cliff Bars, but the Builder Bar, dude, that Builder Bar, ain't no way you're catching me touching one of those suckers. I mean, I have to be zombie apocalypse. I'm hungry, like bad because
I think my body is permanently damaged.
yeah, yeah. It was not pleasant. It was nothing about it was pleasant. And like one thing I will say I think we should just drill into is whatever you're eating at home and the macros that you're getting at home need to translate into what you're taking on your trip. And not just that, but the quality in which you're eating at home needs to translate as best as you can on your trip. So our food was like peanut butter oatmeal, tuna packets, 2 Cliff Bars, some nuts, and a freezer-dried meal. I think that's what it came out to. Prior to that, when I left home, I was eating like 85% lean red meat, like 10% cheese, and the rest were like fruit and berries.
Yesterday, my entire day, I ate a whole steak, a chicken breast and a half, and 6 eggs.
Yeah, it's like
that's what I ate.
We don't eat other things really. I mean, that's kind of our daily diet is mostly meat based and rarely any carbs. Like we don't really eat that many, you know. I mean, we'll have
peanut
it here.
Butter.
Yeah,
I eat a lot of peanut butter.
Yeah, he'll have peanut butter. I don't even eat peanut butter that much anymore, but like we'll have it. Don't get me wrong. Like you know, whether it be like a bread on a sandwich or like a brisket sandwich. I had 2 brisket sandwiches today. They had two buns, obviously. So like every now and then we'll eat like some carbs and stuff. But the quality and the macros need to be relatively similar. And I'll tell you what, when they're not similar, your body does some things that you don't want it to do. I mean, and this is going to get a little TMI, but like going to the bathroom, it was like a 3-day event. Like it was like 1 in 3 days. So I think over the trip, I went to the bathroom 3 times throughout this trip because I was blocked up bad. And Luke, he experienced some touch and cloth events. He experienced. I remember. We're walking.
I had the opposite of what you.
Yeah,
had.
yeah. You had it fast and quick. And I remember walking, and Luke's like, his eyes just get big, and he looks at me and he goes, "Keep walking." And I'm like, and like he says, "Keep walking," and I'm like trying. I was about to ask why. Why do I keep walking, Luke? And he's like messing with his belt, and I'm like, "Oh, that's what he means by keep walking." And then I mean, he's doing a full on like I'm walking, and he's wrestling a bear back there. Is what it sounds like. I mean, he's got limbs and stuff and shrubs. I mean, hanging on to things. I mean, he had some problems. And
I've never seen that movie, The Exorcist, but I imagine that's what
yeah,
it's like.
yeah, it would be like head spinning
Well, that
things.
that one that I told you to keep walking, you kept walking, and it was like I forget. It was like 30 minutes later before I
Oh,
caught up to you because I took my shirt off and I sat down on a log and I drank a liter of water because I was sweating.
yeah, I mean, like it was
Like
like work. Like
I was fighting demons in those woods, man.
yeah, so
I didn't get paid for it either.
yeah, dude.
It was-
Dude, he just went out there to just go. He was a pack mule is what he was. I'm surprised he came. Like I said I'll pay for the gas to get out there. He said done. I'm like, and now it's gonna take some convincing to get him back out there. But no, it's like do your food right. Like I don't know if you looked in our fridge, which is something that I'm gonna have you probably test out. But I made pemmican
Ooh,
and put it. It
interesting.
looks interesting. It looks not that much better than the builder part, but we're gonna give it a go. And well, you'll see that up like well before this podcast comes out on the Instagram story because I'll probably film you while you eat it. And but so I'm trying new things now. But like when I went there, I mean, I was not getting what I normally got, you
Yeah,
know. And
calories aren't. It's not just calories; it's how you get them.
yeah, it's not just calories, but it's also the quality in which calories. And I hear people's like, food is fuel. It doesn't have to be fun and stuff like that. And it's like, I get it. I get why they say it. I get that the calories in, calories out, that sort of thing. But quality food, your body feels amazing. Like when I got back and I was eating my food again, I was perfect. My body felt great. And I think if I took that and took it out to the backcountry and ate quality food, my body would feel so much better than eating just kind of packaged lighter weight stuff that's fuel
Yeah,
um, and stuff like that. And not only that, but when you're struggling on day 5, like we were, rain, this, that, food doesn't need to be a chore. Like it's a pick me up, you know?
I had 3,200 calories a day in food. Plus, mind you, I also had the Wendy's, which was a Baconator and 10 nuggets and a like all that stuff.
Yeah,
And I had the McDonald's.
yeah,
And I still ate all the food I brought. I had 3,200 calories a day for 8 days. I lost 8 pounds.
yeah,
I lost off of my body. I'm 6'3". I lost a pound of body weight every day
yeah.
eating 3,200 calories a day. That still blows my mind.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, that's how much we were working at this stuff. And
Yeah.
and that's how much it takes. And, you know, weight loss on the mountain on your trip is not a good idea. It's just not
No.
a good thing. A pound a
No,
day.
I didn't like that.
No.
That's not a good thing.
No, it's not a
I'm
good
just
thing.
saying,
Yeah,
like,
it's
that's
like,
how much we're burning.
it's impressive. I mean, it's amazing how hard we were running our bodies, but yeah, that's not what you want. And so we have to really rethink our food.
Yeah, that's gonna
next
be
time we go.
Rain pants and good food.
Gators.
Gators.
Or the Peaks. I've used them for I think probably 35 days this year for spring turkey hunting. The Peak Stormcastle Gators, phenomenal. I think it's $130. They're steep. I do not care. After what I went through, and even with the spring, yeah, they're no brainer. They're awesome. They're awesome Gators. I put them through a bunch of stuff this year, and I'm excited to put them through their first elk hunt or two. I'll get into that here in a bit, but yeah. So we're opening up the tent down on ourselves, and it's morning of day 6. And we're going to wrap this up pretty soon because we're going to jump it into 2 podcasts. But just day 6 is a weird day, but it's probably the best day of the trip.
Yes, the most eventful.
It's
sure.
definitely the most dynamic, of highs
Highest
to low.
of highs and lowest of lows.
Yeah, so you like be sure to tune into the next podcast because it's gonna have some juice to it, and this is where things start to get interesting. And what we're going to do is we're adding in our opinions as it goes on, but at the end of day 8 and our drive back home, we're gonna kind of come back and think about where we could have done things better and what we're looking to this year or next year whenever me and Luke get the chance to go back out again. So thanks for watching. Check out the website, check out the articles. Luke's gear list is on the website. My new and improved gear list is on the website. There's a bunch of tips about turkey hunting and traveling that, and clothing system articles on there. The food system articles on there. There's a bunch of resources out there. Also, um, I am doing for like kind of local areas, be doing some shoots, and anyone who needs video work, that will be a thing that I can do, and you can reach me on the website and kind of figure out where my email's at and all this sort of stuff and reach out. And there's some cool videos coming up. There's been a space on the YouTube channel where I haven't done too much. The only thing coming out is has been these podcasts, but that's because I'm really changing up what I'm doing and turning it into films, and that's what I care about. That's what I'm more passionate about. So that's the move I'm making, and that's just how it's going to be. It just seems more fun that way, and it seems way better. Like our elk video got so much more traction than any of my other videos, and it was a fun edit, and it was exciting, and it was
Right.
fun. So I'm switching to that because the amount of work you put in doing little videos here and there is just a bunch of work, and I'd rather put all my work and invest my time into something of like a master class, high quality film. And so that's the change that I'm making. I hope you all will stick around for the ride. This has been fun,
Yeah.
and basically we're just gonna turn this off and turn it back on and start up, episode 2.
There you
So
go.
I'm excited. See you guys.